So now, first of all, welcome everybody to the Sunday doHow chat. As we start, I would like to make a very brief presentation as to what this chat are all about, and then we can continue with our guest Sashiprakasha, or Sashi as I know him, talking about his wisdom in terms of how to create operational excellence. So this is a chat which I organize every Sunday at 11 o'clock. To join in, please use this link, dinakarmurthy.com/Sunday chat. In case you have not joined, you can watch it in YouTube by visiting dinakarmurthy.com/YouTube, or listen to the podcast in Spotify by visiting dinakarmurthy.com/Spotify. Before we continue, a very brief display of our disclaimer to make sure that we don't get into any kind of a conflict, neither the guest nor me or the ones who are organizing, because our intention is noble, and therefore, before you do anything, from the insights which you generate from this chat, please consult your trusted professionals. And the topics which we address in this chat are diverse topics on excellence, as you see on this slide. It could be continuous improvement, change, thinking change, getting people to think differently, lean, customer culture, customer orientation, management, development, etc. And today, our topic would be on creating operational excellence. This is the third episode of the second season. The first season was almost for a year, where I called it as a sit chat, where mainly it was to do with startup founders and people in the startup ecosystem. This time it is more to do with experienced professionals who have hands-on created excellence in their respective roles. And today, one such expert and gentleman whom I know for a long time now is Sashiprakasha LS, who was in Bosch. That's when I met him almost about 25 years back. And after that, we parted ways. I was in Bosch. He left Bosch and went on to various companies. And maybe he will only talk about his journey. And with that brief introduction, let me hand over to Shashi to start talking about his experience and what he believes is something which is unique in trying to create excellence. Over to you, Shashi. You can possibly start with your introduction, and after that, talk about your experiences. Please go on, Shashi.
Thank you, Dinakar. And good morning, everybody. Just to introduce myself, my name is Sashiprakasha, as Dinakar just stated. I basically graduated from REC Durgapur, which is now known as NIT Durgapur, in mechanical engineering. After that, I started my career with BHL Hyderabad. Then I came to Bangalore and I was working with TTK for a while. And then I joined Bosch. I was in Bangalore, and then I was also taking care of the Greenfield project at Jaipur. And then I moved on to head Fenner India Limited, who manufactures belts and oil seals and things like that at Fenner, Madurai. And then I was operational head of Tenneco Automotive at Hosur, which is a American-based company manufacturing shock absorbers. And then I was heading the operations of Wipro hydraulic cylinder division at Bangalore. Then I was with a mining equipment manufacturing company at Coimbatore called Revati Equipments. And then my last innings was with a German company called Kernlebers at Tumkur. During all this journey, for the past 23, 24 years, I have been working either as a COO or as a CEO. Along with it, taking care of all lean initiatives or Six Sigma initiatives, all world-class manufacturing initiatives I've been taking care of. And being the COO or CEO, it gave me both the challenge of defining a system and implementing it, as well as the freedom to take and define the path of success for the company. And therefore, my lean journey, which started approximately in year 2000, continued until I took a retirement last year until then. And even after that, I'm working with a few companies on helping them with the lean journey and improvements. And all along, I have been a lean person. Even immediately after my engineering, I wanted to pursue industrial engineering, which was basically at that time, that was the only thing that was available for lean. But however, now, therefore, in year 2000, I started off with Fenner, and where by the time I had joined, there was a CIA ATMA cluster activity that was going on for improving productivity and implementation of lean, things like that. And CIA ATMA team visited our company and they said, there is no way you can make it to this group. You are far, far behind. So at that time, me and my managing director gave them a commitment. This is exactly the reason why we want to be in the group. And they said, cautioned us that it's going to be very, very difficult for you to catch up. But since you guys are committing, the top management commitment is the most important thing in the whole thing. Since you guys are committing to make improvement, catch up with the rest of the people, we are letting you in. That's how we joined CIA ATMA cluster, and our journey officially started on lean through them. During this period, initially we were supposed to implement 5 years and then put inventory management program, WIP management, things like that, process stability and all that. We were not able to move an inch because the environment in Madurai, that's where the Fenner was that the factory was more like a larger cottage industry. The people were coming in slippers, there was no uniform, there was no culture of working in the best possible way. All that has happened in the previous 2 decades in the industry had not affected them. So therefore, to make changes in that place, it was very, very difficult. So then one fine day, on a Saturday afternoon, I took up a broom and started cleaning the factory myself. That is when everybody started coming together, and then they said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. So then they also joined, and that's how our 5 years journey started off. So it needed some sort of a kickstart in this way, where I myself led the whole thing. And then we started off on our 5 years journey. Then when it came to certain implementation, one of the key things that we wanted to implement was to implement, say, natural lighting in the factory. So when I started trying with that, the union gave a lot of problems to us, saying that you guys don't know anything about rubber processing. The rubber will get cured if it is exposed to sun and all that. And then said, give me 48 hours, I'll resolve this particular problem. So all through next 48 hours, we traced out where all the direct sunlight was coming. Accordingly, we changed the position of the roof lighting, and by which we could avoid the sunlight falling on the rubber per se. Along with that, we made some improvements in the hottest part of the shop floor, where is a curing area where we normally cure the rubber at around 160 to 170 degrees centigrade. There are a host of about 17, 18 machines which are using so much of heat. So we made some improvement in that place, by which the temperature of that area dropped down by 2 degrees centigrade, basically by modifying the north light, by improving the ventilation, things like that. We also used YY analysis to a good extent, and by which all these 17, 18 machines were using independent hydraulic power packs. We removed it and just replaced it with 4. So the noise reduced by almost 5 dBA, and correspondingly even the heat reduced, and the space around the machines also improved. The whole workforce in that particular area was so elated, and they called the union leader who had come earlier and come and stop the whole improvement project. And then they said, this is what we are finding, this is excellent. Then the union leader himself came and said, why don't you do the same thing in my place? So that's how we broke through. Then we took up an improvement in the union leaders area, which was actually had to be the oil seal manufacturing area. The oil seal is basically for preventing any oil leakages, but the paradox was, in the oil seal manufacturing area, we had about 48 presses, compression molding machines, and where the leakage of oil itself was so much that 1,040 liters was the top up of oil we used to do per month.
Oh my God.
5 barrels of oil was leaking through. Then we took out the maintenance guy of that particular place, who was actually rated C for the previous 3 years, and then said, this is the target for you. You have to reduce this leakage to, let's say, 3 barrels, say 600 liters. He said, sir, not possible, 10%, 15%. I said, we are with you, we will help you out. Then in over next 4-5 months, we reduced it to a level of 480. Then he said, here is a chocolate, please take it. Congratulations, what you have done is excellent. He said, thank you, thank you. Now your target is 200 liters, 1 barrel. He said, sir, how is it possible? Again, in the beginning, you did not believe that this is possible. Now, in 5 months, we have reached this level. Next 5 months, we will reach to 200. So eventually, over next 5 months, we reach a level of 180 liters. What I made is, I made this person to make a presentation to CIA team when they came. And then he was very proud to make a presentation about his achievement. And after that, what really happened is, this person who was rated C in the previous 3 years became A, and he was all over the factory trying to improve things. So this is how the right kind of motivation will help to improve the people's performance. Another thing that I had was in, let's say, in V-belt manufacturing, the V-belt is actually wrapped with cloth, which is rubberized. And then how it is done is, you take big sheet of, let's say, cloth, and that you rubberize it, and you cut it into small strips like ribbon. During the process, because this cloth is very, very flexible, there's a lot of waste that happens on the sides. So every shift, there used to be one big bin of 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, full and above that. So that much used to be the wastage that we used to find. During one of our benchmarking visit, I went to JK Tires, Gwalior. So I saw an equipment which is being used there for a similar operation, not exactly same, but we implemented that, and in no time, the wastage became so less that it used to hardly become that. Maybe from, it became 1 meter by 1 meter, it became maybe possibly 200 mm to 200 mm. So it's almost about 80-85% of the wastage was reduced. So during the same period, when we had to do some improvement in the backward process, I had to go and approach the previous union leader. Everybody was scared of approaching him. I went and asked him, Subramani, I want help from you. He said, what do you want, sir? I have seen what you have done. What is that you want from me? I told him, I want you to make this particular thing a little more straight. He said, I will do. How will you do it? There has to be a process for it. Will it help you if I give this kind of an arrangement in your workplace? He said, yes, definitely it will help. So we took the help of the toughest people in the shop floor, and then implemented the change with which I calculated in the previous 40-45 years that the company has been in existence, they have wasted as much as, let's say, 16 crore worth of material, which means 800 Maruti cars at that time. So I had a display saying that this is the kind of wastage that we have done in last 45 years. And from now on, what we are going to do is few motorcycles. So when the CIA team came next time, I made that operator to make the presentation to the CIA team, and he spoke in Tamil. Of course, he did not know English, but the people could get what he was saying. But at the end of the presentation, tears were rolling down his eyes. So those are the times when this change management really won over the heart of the people, and then we started getting the cooperation from the people. So without turning around them from the heart itself, without engaging them, there would not have been a successful. At the end of it, I think that we got benefited by almost 2% in the bottom line because of implementation of many changes that we did with respect to lean, waste management, energy management, noise reduction, temperature management, things like that. So it contributed almost about 2% to the bottom line. So
yeah, that's really a very inspiring story, Shashi. What is something which really worries me is, many a times people keep changing the jobs, and in every job you go to, you have to first establish your credibility. And you have gone through so many jobs. Some things which you mentioned was to help people succeed. That was one of the magic which you used, and then help them to become better, make their work easier, or one of the 2-3 topics which you mentioned. But generally, what do you recommend for people changing jobs, and how do they establish credibility before you go to the next success story?
Right. What I found is very, very important is that when you take up a project, you should take up a project which is hurting the people the most, and put your heart and soul into it and do it in first 3 months. Whatever you do in first 3 months, that goes against your name, and then that's where your credibility gets established. People are willing to listen to you.
Okay.
So other thing that I did was to sell all these concepts of lean, 5S, TPM, etc. through stories, because whatever values we have got in our life is mostly because of the stories that our grandparents have told. So I used to take up stories from either from, let's say, Panchatantra or Ramayana, Mahabharata, or even from some latest movie, Tamil movie, and then draw parallels to any of these concepts, so that these concepts remain with them forever. As you said, otherwise, as we leave the job, all these concepts also come behind us. So if you want a longevity of all this, it should really remain in the hearts of the people. So I always gave the concept through stories.
So it's quite interesting. Yeah, please go on to the next area where you
Sure.
created the impact.
All right. So next, I was in Tenneco next, beginning around 2003, and Tenneco manufactures shock absorbers. At that time, we were doing it for 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and 4-wheelers, and then we had just got into front fork. That was a new project that we had got into. Tenneco, as a worldwide company which had about 66 places where it had got operations, had started an initiative where 9 different initiatives they had started. One is called as business operating system, which is about how to define your key parameters for your monthly review and policy deployment, along with policy deployment. And then things like SPC, Six Sigma, something on the finance side, like let's say it was value addition, and then there are 2 initiatives on the HR side, etc. So we had lean manufacturing, one of the key global initiative which was there. So during one of the annual reviews that was there in Shanghai, we were asked as to when we would be starting with the lean projects. Everybody said that you give us the training, and 2 months from there we start. I was the only one who said, from today in 2 months I will start. You start your training elsewhere, and then you can come at your convenient time. So then once I came back from Shanghai, my managing director, who was an American and Vietnam War veteran, he knocked at my door and said, Shashi, do you remember what you have committed at Shanghai? It depends. I said, it depends on what you are talking about. He said, you are going to implement lean in next 2 months. Is there something that I can do for you? I said, yes, definitely. In your room, in the corner, there are 2 books, which is all about lean work, how to conduct a lean workshop. Can I borrow it? I'll take a Xerox copy and give it back to you. He said, he went, in my room, is there a book? I don't remember. I said, I'll show you. I went to his room, picked up those 2 manuals, and then said, this is what I want, and I will take a Xerox copy. I said, that is yours, $50. This is my contribution from my side to you. I attended this training program in MIT, US, but I don't remember much about it. If this is going to help you, here it is. So that's how we started our lean journey in Tenneco. And using that workshop manual, we started doing projects. And by the time the trainer had come, we had already done 4 value stream mapping and implemented some of the key changes. So when the trainer opened up his laptop and he was about to do his training, he said, give us 20 minutes. We will tell you as to what we understand about value stream mapping. So 5 minutes, each team gave presentation about what project they have taken up, what are the actions, what has been completed, what they expect out of this particular change. So once we made this presentation, the trainer closed his laptop and said, there is nothing I can teach you guys. In fact, I am picking up few things from here. If you remember, in Bosch, we used to have mm, what was it?
BPS, is it?
Sir, in a SIP this thing, we used to have that templates we used to say, and then manufacturing system this thing we used to have one this thing. I had taken up a few points from there, and
BPS,
then
is it? Bosch Production System.
even before that, we had something different.
SIP was there. It's a continuous improvement process.
Along with SIP, there was one project we used to do.
That was a process mapping, process
something similar
walkthrough.
to that. So I picked up something from here, picked up something from value stream mapping practices, and put them together to make it look a lot more logical, involving more people, things like that. And he said, and I also gave examples about how we worship rivers in India, and therefore why rivers are flow is important, things like that. All that I interconnected with Indian value system. So therefore, he said he's going to pick it up and take it as examples worldwide and use all these examples there. And then the way we had was that 1 week we will take up project. Monday we will start with the basic training about value stream mapping and wherever we are going to take up the project. And then we will study as is situation on day 1. And then we come back and do, let's say, brainstorming, and then arrive at what improvements can be made. And then we make quickly the changes that is possible to be made. And then post-improvement, what is the improvement that you have achieved? You map it. Something you're not able to complete, then you make an action plan and you present it on the 5th day. So day 1 to day 5, you start on Monday. By Friday, the presentation is made by the evening, and the whole thing is, by and large, you would have achieved 60% of the improvements that you would have wanted to do. I told the trainer that I just want a change, that I wanted to start either on a Wednesday or a Thursday and close it accordingly on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. He said,
So you get the Sunday also, correct?
Right. So he said, perfectly suits me when I'm traveling from somewhere else and coming. So I can come to your place on a Monday and then have a discussion with you and start on a Wednesday. So therefore, we started on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we did something. And the weekend, when our superiors and international lean guide, etc., they said, anything that we want from us, please, we are available. He said, no, you go ahead. Monday morning, by the time they came back, the entire layout of the plant had changed. he said, what? You guys have already done the change? Yes. No, I'm coming just now from China. And they said this is their year end for them, and they will do all these changes only after the year end is over. Don't you have work pressure? I said, we have work pressure. We have a lot of problems. That is why we want to do all this as early as possible and get the benefit of that.
Correct.
He said, fantastic. And then by Tuesday, we had already implemented most of the changes. And then we had standardized it. And then we made presentation on by Tuesday and completed the whole thing. The idea was to do a quick war on waste, or RIP. RIP is Rapid Improvement Program. So that you take it up in areas where it really hurts the company, hurts the people, hurts their performances. And like that, we picked up 12 projects in a year, and then which helped us to improve our productivity immensely. In fact, I joined that company somewhere in July. The year starts in April. So next year, when we were doing the budget, I committed manpower productivity improvement of 15%. And normally, the rest of the places, people are committing 5%. And I said 15%. Are you sure? Yeah, I said yes, 15%. We made this action plan interlinked with all our lean initiatives, and then took up projects based on the Pareto. And then we achieved this 15% in over next 12 months. Next year, when the budget was being made, I said another 12%. He said, are you crazy? No, I'm committing. I know it's possible. So then an auditor came from China to audit our balance sheet and P&L to see whether these improvements are real or something is being doctored. Then we went back confirming that this is actually being shown in the P&L. So these changes are real. So we were able to do an improvement of 15% year 1, again another 12% year 2. And then we were also able to improve our customer services drastically. So another anecdote that I want to tell is during the same period when we were doing this we were doing front fork for Scooty Pep. Whole project was for 400 sets per day. But at 365, despite working 3 shifts, and working on Sundays, we were struggling to meet customer requirement. At one point of time, we stopped customer line, and customer got affected by 25 vehicles on that particular day. Next day, 7 people from the customer place, executive vice president, 2 general managers, and everybody landed here. What is that you want so that you don't affect us? He said, give us some time. From our side also, there were 7 people. Nobody answered. I had to answer. So then they said, Shashi, you are the guy who have to solve our problem. I said, give me some time. I will solve this problem and come back to you. Over next 48 hours, we found out that one of the biggest problem was the setup time that we had in one of the silliest operations in that particular line. And it was taking about 35 minutes to change from left hand to right hand to left hand. And because of the criticality, we were forced to do it every 50th piece. That means in a day, there were 16 changes. So which means that almost 9 hours we were wasting. So we worked on the technical side and the design of that particular fixture, tooling, etc. And then we came out with something by which the setup time could be reduced from 35 minutes to 7 seconds. So
Wow.
I just had to take out a pin from one side and put it on the other side. It could change from LH to RH, RH to LH. So now I could change at any number of times I wanted to change, I could change. So immediately my capacity got increased from 365, what I was able to do in, say, 3 shift and 7 days a week. It got changed to about 400 plus in 2 shift and 6 days a week. After another 5-6 months, they said, we want 600 from the same line. And they said, what do you want? I said, I only want time. So you take care of, let's say, the plating person who has been nominated by you. He will need 1 additional bath, whereas inside my gate, I will take care. So without any investment, again, doing all lean, using lean tools, we were able to deliver 600 from the same, let's say, line, where we were struggling to give even 365. So then later on, it became 800. So all this was possible because of implementing lean tools in conjunction with theory of constraints. So because of which customers said, you are using the same line for much bigger volume, give us volume discount. I said, I will give you something better than that. I said, what is it? I said, I will come and give a presentation about before, after, and thereafter to all your key suppliers as to how they can debottleneck and become more competitive. I think it will add more value. The buyer could not understand the value of it. Then I said, I will talk to your general manager sourcing. So I talked to the general manager sourcing, one Mr. Tyagarajan. I said, this is the proposal I have. Don't ask me for price reduction. I will give you something more than that. He understood the value of it. And then I went and gave a presentation about how we moved from 365 on a, say, a 24/7 kind of a scenario to comfortable 800 per day. And all this happened with reduction in headcount without any serious investment. Some 2.2 lakhs I invested, that's it. And then I was able to increase output from 365 per day to about 800 per day. So that's how we successfully did it. There are so many other things. I really don't want to get into minor details in every area. That's Tenneco. In the end, what they said is India is the best plant with respect to implementation of lean and safety systems. This is the certificate we got from our Tenneco International. Anything?
Shashi, if you look at that story, it's a story of commitment, story of perseverance, and story of the intrinsic wisdom which you spoke about earlier to start addressing the toughest problem and finding a solution quickly. And that is one that will really create an avalanche and then snowball the improvements. Despite this being common knowledge, why do you think many leaders and many companies struggle in doing that?
See, actually, the problems are seen as devils, and people are scared to go close to it. And they always want somebody else to really suggest as to what to do. Mainly, I think what will be running behind their mind is the fear of failure. What if I fail, if I have to take the blame? But if you get into the details, most of the problems are far more simpler than what you think. You get into the details, it's very, very easy, silly things it will be. And if you get into the detail, it's far more easier. And you yourself will wonder, only this much? How is that I didn't look into this earlier? So stupid of me.
Yeah.
So that fear of failure, once it goes off, I think people can really plunge into it and solve a lot of problems.
No, the fear of failure possibly goes off only when you have success, right, Rishi? As an individual.
Right.
Otherwise, you always are scared.
Initially, possibly somebody needs to handhold until unless you have a tendency to take risk and then plunge it, and then if you don't have that I can do it, you need a sensei, you need a guru, somebody will handhold and say, you do it, I'm behind you. So take their failures in your stride and then say, okay, this is what you could have done. So one thing is, I always gave a lot of freedom to my people. You can do a lot of experiments, but don't do experiments on a large scale. Do an experiment in a small scale, and then you extrapolate it to a large scale. So once you
And
give them the freedom.
whenever you shifted a job, did you have somebody who would back you up, or was it that you just took the risk and you took the path which you are used to?
Unfortunately, I did not have many people who could guide me in this journey. And my only leading light was Goldratt, the book Goal, which I read in year 2001. That motivated me so much, and then also gave me a confidence that once you get into the details, it's far more easier to solve problem. And I was on my own. So later on, I read so much about Toyota manufacturing system, so much about machines that change the world, and so much in different areas. And especially my traveling around, especially in whenever I was in the airport, I used to pick up some book, read it, try to implement something. Also pick up something when I'm staying in the hotel. Maybe they are the best benchmark for 5 years. Pick up something from there and then implement. So try to implement whatever good practices I saw in various places. Like we made a benchmarking visit to Korea. So we picked up from 12 different organization best practices. So I had that confidence that, okay, we are going in the right path, and then the results will speak for itself. So I did not have the fear of failure.
Good. So now let's go to the next transformation.
Next transformation, I was working for a hydraulic cylinder manufacturing company. I can tell the name, Wipro, at Peenya. So when I joined there, by and large, the Peenya plant was producing to its full capacity. It was almost about 400 cylinders per day. And we were planning to set up a new facility at Chennai. And the whole market was growing at the rate of about 40 to 45% per year. So that means in next 2 years, the demand would have doubled. And because of which the Chennai plant was supposed to take over from there. Unfortunately, because of certain government, the way government works, I can't get into more details than that. So the whole project got delayed by 2 to 2.5 years. So I had to cater to the market demand from the existing plant, which is already running, supposed to be running full, which was at around 400 cylinders per day. So therefore, I could not hire more people because all the machines were already, critical machines were already manned in 3 shifts. I could not do any capex because there was no place in the plant to put any additional machine. So all the improvement had to come by implementation of lean and theory of constraints, and in some cases Six Sigma. So some of these improvements, if you look back, you will laugh at it. For example, the first improvement that I made was the first quarter. We used to have the production review every Monday. We used to review part number by part number and say, okay, this is what is the demand is, and this is the stages in which it is in. And along with PPC or the production planning, and then the production fellows, the purchase fellows, you review, and then you say, okay, what is that you can give? So when I did the first review and then added up all these numbers or the commitments that they had given, it had added up to 830 per day. And then I told them that I don't want this commitment. No, KMP wanted it. KMP is my predecessor. He wanted more cylinders, not more commitment. So you should plan exactly what you can really deliver. That much only you should plan. If you're able to deliver 400, plan for 400. If you're able to deliver 450, you plan for 450. So, okay, there will be some slippage between cup and the lip. Okay, 10% extra is what I will give you as I said. So I don't want anything more than, let's say, 10% extra, 440. No, sir. No, we need at least 25. So we settled that 15%. So we started planning for 460. By this, what happened? Lot of confusion at the entire supply chain, be it suppliers or be it our in-house manufacturing. Everywhere that confusion got removed. Otherwise, what happens when a supplier is doing a particular operation and next buyer will go, oh, my part is urgent, remove that and put this. So the supplier will always have one fellow tracking which buyer is coming next. So by the time that buyer is coming, he will remove that particular setting and put a new one. So a lot of productive time gets wasted. So the moment I said that you plan only so much, and these are the things you are going to plan, and then the backward planning, next quarter, my output increased by 8%.
Wow. So it's realistic planning, because once the plan is realistic, then a lot of things will happen as per the plan. And also the fulfillment will be better. Once you do a unrealistic, illusionary plan, anyway, everybody knows that we can fail. So you are planning to fail.
Right. So once you did the planning, right, the output really increased. Next, what we really looked at is, okay, which is your bottleneck? Going from the theory of constraints, I need not work everywhere. Only I have to look at the constraint resource and work on that. So it came out that the piston rod is the constraint area. In the piston rod, there was one particular process, friction welding, that was a constraint process. So I went and asked the piston rod plant manager, is the piston, let's say, friction welding machine working 24/7? He said, yes, sir, it is working all the 3 shifts. No, my question was not that. I said, is it working 24/7? I think you didn't get my question. Have you read the book Goal? Yes, I have read the book Goal. Is this your constraint resource? Yes, this is my constraint resource. So what is the second point? One is the identify constraint resource. What is the next step? Exploit the constraint resource to fullest potential.
Correct.
So which means it is 24/7 and not 22.5/6. Yeah. He got it. He got it. So no, how do I do it? He was thinking. I said, can your, let's say, supervisors operate the machine? So for the time being, can they operate during the lunch break of the operators? So we immediately changed over 22.5 to 24/7. And my next quarter, another 8%, my output improved.
Very good.
Right. So again, even then, people said piston rod is the problem. You concentrate on that place. You give us piston rod, we will give you cylinders. Here, it is easier for me. Again, we looked at the same welding machine as a constraint. If you really look at the cycle time, floor to floor time was 107 seconds. Out of on an average. Out of 107 seconds, my loading unloading time itself was 47 seconds, for which there was a helper because it was a heavy part. So there was a helper. So he used to load and then the unload part, keep it aside, things like that. I said, okay, this activity is taking considerable amount of the total process. Can you split that into 2? One helper does loading, other helper does unloading. Right. So he said, yes, possible. Then he said, next day he came up with a manpower indent for 3 people. I said, no, I'm not giving. No, then I'm going to implement the change that you suggested. I said, the previous machine, you got the CNC threading machines, the Econo CNCs. So there you got 4 machines and you got 4 helpers. Why do you need 4 helpers? Can you take out one from each shift and put him there? No. My OE will drop. I said, if your OE drops, does it affect you to such an extent that you are not able to feed the next operation? So in theory of constraints, what is the objective of non-constraint resources? Objective of non-constraint resources up the stream is to ensure that they feed the constraint resource continuously. They never stop. As long as you are able to do that, then there is no problem. With the 3 people there, 3 helpers there, can you manage it? He said, yes. So we just shifted one person from there to here. My loading, unloading time reduced by about 20 to 23 seconds. And which means that my cycle time reduced from 107 seconds to 80 seconds. So
3%.
Right. Again, next quarter, I had something like 8 to 10% improvement. So like this, every quarter I had an improvement uh, of almost 8%. Next one is very interesting that the piston rods are induction hardened and then they are straightened, like camshaft straightening, or in Bharat Forge, we have crankshaft straightening. So it is like that, it is straightened because once you heat rate it, it
It'll
goes,
get deformed.
yes, it will get deformed. So that, for that, our planning fellows had planned for some sort of an automation where all this, it will be fed back and then automatically rotate. It will identify where the high spot is, and then they will apply the corresponding load. I knew that this is going to be too difficult. I said, give me two trainee engineers, engage them for two shifts for 15 days. Okay, just note down the part number, diameter, length, and how much time is he taking to straighten this. So they mapped the whole thing. At the end of it, they came up with all the details. I said, put this in the order of L by D ratio.
Mm.
So once you put it in the order of L by D ratio, we found that where the L by D ratios was less than a particular value, 3 or less, there was no straightening that was required at all.
Mm.
So operator used to just check and pass it on.
Mm.
So this happens even in camshaft also. So therefore, I said, okay, let us take some safety that 25% from the bottom L by D, we don't straighten. So straight away, my straightening capacity went up by 25%. So by this, by not doing anything, eliminating a work which we were unnecessarily doing, so helped me to further improve. Like this, every quarter started giving an improvement of 8%. So my managing director said at that time that when I started, we were doing about 100 crore per quarter. So at this rate, Shashi, you will end up doing 200 crores per quarter in so and so by so and so quarter. I said yes, and I will not stop there. My dream doesn't stop there. I think I can do more. But by then, the remark that he made is people don't know how to define the capacity. So this is something which I really think that we have to take care. If looking back, I think I should have worked on that side, that people can perceive it not the way you want to perceive it. It has to be explained to the people as to how this has been achieved. And the conventional capacity calculation is really 400 per shift. And what we have done now is the kind of improvement which cannot get captured by your OEE. Therefore, one of the changes that I made is that OEE is there only to identify the waste which are there. It is not there as a measure of my efficiency. My efficiency is only by the throughput, how much quantity I really produce. So whenever I measured OEE, side by side, always I measured the quantity of output, and which will motivate people and saying that, okay, I moved from 400 to 600 to 800 to 1000 plus per day. This is how it is being done. So I think that is what helped us to improve over a long period of time. And then because of which our manufacturing cost reduced almost by 3% of the sales, which helped us to be more competitive, give even discount to our major customers, and retain 100% market share.
And also because you didn't really add any machine, neither did you add people. Both those were more or less fixed.
Right. That is why my manufacturing cost reduced by 3%. So it directly went into my bottom line. Part of it I shared with my customer.
Super.
So that keeping any possible competition away.
Super. Damn good. Damn good. So I just noted down using the concept of theory of constraints from whatever you have been speaking till now. Your secret of success has been to identify the biggest pain point whenever you went into a new role. Take the problem head on, get into the minutest details, then use common sense to simplify or solve, then implement with perseverance. Is my understanding correct?
Right. And never implement anything which is very, very high tech. So always depend. So physics is your best friend. Make use of physics to the extent it is possible. Make use of gravity. Make use of in any of those principles which is there in physics. I think it will work out very, very cheap, and then per unit cost you will be able to reduce a lot.
Very good, very good. Now let's go to Kernlibers, a very multinational company with presence in India. How has your experience there been?
Curly
It was
Bus
more a
even
kind of a greenfield project also, right?
Curly Bus started in 2008, and I joined Curly Bus in 2015-16.
Mm.
Right. Even before I started, the base was good in terms of good manufacturing practices, housekeeping, and all or the technology. All this was very good. So the question that when we wanted to implement lean was that some of the let's say I wanted to take somebody under me and then he drives it, such a thing. Many people did not accept the challenge because this company is already at such a good place at level. Can I add more value to it? But then I took that as a challenge and we started our lean journey. Though we had a director lean at Germany, but somehow I found that the speed of our German colleagues was so less that I could not wait until they really gave us what tools to use, how to use, benchmark, etc. Then we started defining on our own, and then we started giving it to Germany. This is how we are doing the whole thing. For example, even if you take 5 years, we don't do only 5 years, 5 years plus 1S, number one. Number two, when you have to do 5 years audit, these are all the different things I am looking at, whether it be it visual factory, whether it is quality stability, machine stability, or lean plan, or whichever things which you are talking about. So all SMED, TACT, or flow, all this, in each one of them, this is what I am looking at. And if I am going to do an audit, if it meets this condition, this is, it gets 10%, 15, 25%, 50%, 75%, everything was defined. So all this we used to make module by module a system, integrate that into our TS 9000 or TS 16949, and did not make it as a parallel system, integrate into the manufacturing system. And then we used to give training material, also pass it on to German. So this is what we are doing. If you think this is good, please standardize it across the world. And then like that, for every tool that we wanted to implement, when we wanted to implement TPM, we launched much faster than our colleagues in rest of the world. And we did not use any consultants at that point of time. I think we had spoken at that particular point of time. We did not want to use anybody from external. So the internal resources only we used, and we implemented tool by tool for lean manufacturing. We also implemented certain things to improve our cost. So in a net effect, what happened is, number one, our key product, which we had a capacity to do about 4,500 sets per day. By implementing all these lean tools, we were able to improve it to about 7,000 sets per day. Much later, another 2 years, 3 years later, from 7,000, we were able to improve it to 8,800 sets per day with the same equipment, the same number of machines, only by implementing SMART, by implementing so many improvement projects, waste elimination, looking into what activity really they are doing, whether it's adding value, whether it is only adding cost, things like we were able to eliminate so many things. We were able to reduce the entire throughput time, by which we were able to reduce our inventory, because one of the first thing that I had seen was inventory was huge for the kind of operation that we had, and which also will lead to a lot of wastages, let's say write-offs and things like that. So we worked on this throughput time. We have worked on standardization of input material, which was overlooked. We worked with suppliers to reduce the lead time for supply of certain key material, by which we were able to reduce the lead time, and by which, again, we were able to pass on some benefit to our customers, even on mature products. So by which, otherwise we had certain international competition, we were able to keep them at bay. And it came to such an extent that we were much more cost competitive, and quality wise we were much better than even our parent organization. It came to a stage where our parent organization said that we believe that we do precision products, but we think India does even more precision product. That day, I think, was the proudest pride. We really carried that badge on our collar, And I think that's a good point to achieve in anybody's life, because of which.
Absolutely. Shashi, if you look at the 5 steps which we discussed earlier, you spoke about not wanting to implement anything which is complex. Try to do something which is simple, and that possibly is also a kind of a basis for being able to implement quickly, isn't it? If you go for something complex, then it will go round and round in circles.
Exactly. The best things in life are always simple. The solutions which are simple are elegant, and then they sustain. Another key thing which I have not covered is that one thing that I have always tried to follow is, if I have 10 ideas, I have
Please go
never
on. Please go on.
I have not implemented them as my ideas. I have tried to get ideas from the people. Out of 10 ideas, even if I get 6 or 7 from my people, give them the credit, make them the champions of those particular initiatives, and then say you do it. And then I am behind you. So make that them as a part of the success story, by which they also get motivated, they get the credit, and then the sustainability of all these improvements is much, much higher. So if it becomes only, if I try to take the credit, these improvements will never be sustainable. So it multiplies. Even if I leave or somebody else leaves, they will take this along with them to another Indian company only. So we are helping another Indian company only to be competitive, gain more market share, and possibly get a good name in the world. Because my underlying principle in life has always been, my prayer has been, Namaste Sada Vatsale Matrubhume Tvaya Hindu Bhume Sukham Varjitoha. I will forgo my personal comfort for the sake of my land. I do not get an opportunity to go to, let's say, border and fight the enemy. I don't have to go there. Whatever work I am doing here, work with full involvement, with the conviction of helping my country to be ahead of others. I think that we would have done our job.
Absolutely. Super.
I've
Very,
met
very,
these
very
people
touching.
where this particular thing originates, you possibly know.
Yeah.
This prayer originates. I've met big people in them and then said, this is what I'm trying to do. They said, you are doing much better service than what we guys are trying to do. We need people like you. So I think that commitment has always kept me motivated, whether or not somebody else pushes me. That has been the driver for.
Yeah, Shashi, we have got Balu on the line.
Yeah.
Balu, would you like to ask any question or comment? Balu is the head of production of Triveni turbines.
Good.
Balu, in
Triveni
case you want to
turbines,
ask anything, please go ahead. Please unmute and ask, Balu, in case you want to ask. Otherwise, we'll continue with our conversation. Yeah, go
Good
on, Balu.
afternoon, Sashi. Good afternoon, Sashi.
Yes,
Yeah,
Balu.
you can hear. Please go on.
It is an excellent way of sharing your success story. It really motivates. Though I am in Triveni since '93. Though we were neighbors, somehow we didn't had any chance to even meet once. At least I don't remember. Many times I had come to your factory, but somehow I didn't meet you. But each of your examples are really worth emulating.
Sure.
By anyone. Dinakar, it was though I joined very late because I couldn't join. I joined only at 11:40.
No problem.
Definitely, whichever line that you are in, there are enough improvements that can be done. And then only thing is, you have to definitely take up such projects, which I call as 10x point. That means you touch at one places, it has its cascading effect on 10 different places. You should have a knack of selecting such projects by which the company gets benefited non-linearly.
Also, it's a big pain point. See, what I understood was it has to be a big pain point, so everybody gets relief once you implement that. Once you find a solution to that problem, and second is make sure that you get into the finest detail. That's most important, so that you can understand what the problem is, and after that, get the team to come up with ideas which are simple solutions using common sense, and then get them implemented immediately and give the credit to the team. That's kind of a very inspiring recipe for success. uh, Sashi, I have three questions to you before we conclude. First is, if you look at today's world, there are a lot of freshers who have huge aspirations. In fact, the other day, this week, I was in college. They called me as a guest speaker, and one of the students asked me, "Sir, you please tell me what can be done to become a manager very quickly." Okay,
Within
how can I become a manager very quickly? She asked me how I can become a manager very quickly. So I told her that, look, it's important that you demonstrate that you are able to lead people, and people are also seeing that you are a kind of a help for them to succeed, for them to become more successful. Once you create that kind of a situation, you become a manager. Faster you do, faster you can grow. So the aspirations are very, very high. So what is your what would you like to advise to the fresher who is looking for a job?
unfortunately, we come from a generation where we believe that karmanya vadikar asli mapuleshu right. So, but that karma has to be done. But like you said, that you have to keep the interest of the company the foremost and keep contributing to it, and do it in such a way that people are more than willing to come along with you in the journey. And then it doesn't matter what reporting relationships are. Since you are talking about somebody who is junior, it may not be so much applicable, but their senior should see her as the value addition in their team, and then they can add particular thing. And but as a senior person, if you are getting into that kind of a thing, that you get into such a position that even the people who are not reporting to you should be able to come and discuss with you their issues.
Correct.
Right? That is the day that you have won the confidence of the people. So whether they are from a different department, whether they are from a different unit, doesn't matter. So I think that kind of a credibility is something which you have to be built, for which we will have to give up our own selfishness. So we have to be selfless. We have to be clear in what we really want to really give to the organization. So,
And see, in your case, when you look at improvements and your journey, I'm sure there would have been some kind of a regular routine reviews which you would conduct. If you look at many companies, routine reviews, even daily work management is not very common in many MSMEs.
right.
Now, what is your opinion on daily work management and some kind of a discussion where you talk about improvements and where you review the business? What is your opinion on that?
See, number one, we have to have regular reviews. If you review once in a month, you only get 11 opportunities in a year to do the course correction. If you do once in a week, you get 51 opportunities to do the course correction. If you do every day, you get 299 opportunities to do the course correction. So therefore, a daily review is very much. And then before you have traveled far from the goal, it is easier to correct it and get back into the role. And therefore, daily work management is very, very important. But at the same time, it is very important to keep those daily interactions very, very brisk. If possible, 20 minutes, standing interaction, if possible. And have a combination of both formal interaction and informal interaction. When I say informal interaction, for example, you will have multiple projects running in any factory. So for example, new product development we were doing at a given point of time, let's say there are 6, 7, 8 different new products which is there. We used to have the status of each of the project being displayed next to our, let's say, MD's room or wherever you used to have discussion, etc. So that whenever you are walking ahead that way, you can see the status. So every Monday, the team was supposed to update saying that, okay, this is the current week, and then this is the status. So when you are walking up and down, voluntarily or involuntarily, you will see something which is red, and then ask them a question, what happened? Do you need any support? Do you need anything? So these kind of informal interactions also have to occur. And you should not fill up your calendar with only meetings and meetings and meetings. That's very important. So as leaders, I have always believed that I have to be earlier than others to work, so that during the working time I'm available to others. And my meetings were always very, very short. And if I say 60 minutes, it is 60 minutes. And before the meeting, I always write to the people that, okay, this is the meeting, this is the agenda, these are the points that we'll discuss. I want this data from you, this data from you, this data from you, so that in that 1 hour we can go towards solving that particular problem as much as possible. Not again tell, okay, these are the things that are required, I'll get it next time. So then you lose time. So if you really want things to be resolved fast, then you should have a mixture of both formal and informal, and then your expectations have to be set right. And to the extent that I want data in this particular format, give an Excel sheet. If you spend time in doing this, then time down the line, you don't have to spend much.
Correct.
So standardize and do it. So then I think you'll have a lot of time.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think you remember my ex-boss who used to stand at the
Yeah.
window, and
Yeah.
most of the time I'm gazing outside. I also have a similar trait.
Yeah.
Most
Very
of the
good.
time
Super.
I keep doing that.
Yeah, Shashi, finally, a last question to you. See, your purpose is mainly nation building. Your purpose is contributing for the success of the others. And when you see that happen, then it excites you, energizes you. And you also said that, look, if there is a problem, I'm not going to sit back. I have to solve the problem, make their life easier. And these are all, what should I say, traits possibly which are not very common in the current industry. And if you look at India overall, if suppose we had only Shashis in all the companies, we would have been the world's best manufacturing location for all the industries, for all the companies. Now, how do you think India should go ahead in creating or cloning Shashis across the country in all the industries?
Unfortunately, today with advent of a lot of opportunities in the software sector, which is highly a romantic place to work with, and many of the engineers do not want to dirty their hands. And in India, our productivity levels are also far lower, and we have got into a cycle. For the amount of work you do, this is what you get. I think somewhere that cycle has to break, and the manufacturing sectors also will have to start paying their people more, so that number one, you get good talents into manufacturing setup. So, and then once you get good manufacturing people, everybody wants to contribute. I believe that 97% of the people always have good intention. It is the 3% that we have to deal with them differently. But looking at the 3% who do not want to contribute, or are not positively contributing, if you start formulating rules which are so complex, it irritates people who really want to do even the work. So that's where the organizations will have to relook at themselves, make things really easy for them, and identify the people who are able to contribute and then really contributing to the organization. I think it's a cycle. It should happen both from the management side as well as from the people who are contributing. If I see the individual manpower productivity between India and China, China is 3 times that of India generally. The speed at which our people work, the speed with which the Chinese people work is completely different. So we need to visit such places to realize that what is possible. So I think the management should encourage and send more and more people, at least the key people, to areas where such best manufacturing practices can be picked up and people can implement at least a part of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shashi. It was really very, very inspiring, very exciting for me. And I'm sure we will again have an opportunity to speak to you once again. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dinakar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.